Hi, my name is Bree and welcome back to my channel. Thursday, I've been MIA for almost a month now. I've been getting used to my school schedule, getting used to the workload of all my classes, and after figuring some stuff out with my job and my injury in my foot, oh my god, it's just a lot. It's a lot. It's been a month, let me tell you that. But I've been lucky enough to have time somehow to read. I've been trying to read an hour before I want to go to bed. So I've been keeping up with that, and some of my September wrap-up books are actually books that I read for my literature class. So I'm gonna count it because I read those books entirely, so why not include them? And I don't know why I keep moving my hand around. Maybe because I'm Italian. Without further ado, let's jump right into today's video. So I read a total of 6 books for the month of September. I didn't think I would be able to read that much with school and everything else going on, but I am proud of myself. Pat on the back. So technically I started this book August 31st, but I did finish it on September 3rd. So I'm going to count it as my September wrap-up book. So this book is A Tall Dark Trouble by Vanessa Montalban. And I gave this book a 5-star rating. This book, oh my god, I loved it. I didn't think I would love it as much as I, loved it. I mean, obviously I knew I was going to love it, but not to this extreme love, if that makes sense. This book has everything. It has magic. It has the Cuban heritage, curses, family curses. It just has everything. A little bit of everything. Fantasy, romance, mystery, suspense. Mwah. Well done. I have nothing terrible to say about this book. I could not find any criticism for it. The writing was fantastic. They follow 3 characters, and you could tell obviously the chapters were labeled which character, who point of view we were in, but honestly we were able to tell because the voice and the tone of those characters were just so different and so unique that you were able to pick up on oh my god, I'm in so and so's head. I don't know too much about Cuban culture, history, etc., so I can't really say too much about it, but from what I read and what I've also read some other Cuban books that took place during the revolution and stuff, but just kind of judging on what I know from what I read, it was just fantastic. It was a really good job, also including magic elements in it was also amazing. So from my knowledge, just from following this author on social media and what I read in the book, it does seem like there is going to be a book 2, and I really hope that it's 100% yes, it is a book 2 because I can't wait for it. I'm gonna eat that shit up. The second book that I read this month was, well, technically last month, was Assistant to the Villain by Hannah Nicole Maher, and I gave this book a 4-star rating. I didn't think I was gonna love this book as much as I did. The writing style was just very simple. Anyone could read it, no matter your educational background. The reason why I didn't give it a 5-star rating was because I actually hated the protagonist. I actually hated Evie. I don't know what about her. I felt she was a reliable narrator, but at the same time, it's I didn't like her personality. I didn't like how she just casually brushes off some of the stuff the villain does and just accept it. Girl, if I was to find a dead body on my desk, I mean, I would be freaking the hell out. And she's just another day in the office. What? I mean, I get you work for a villain, but that's not an everyday occurrence. So where's your reaction to it rather than just being okay. But other than that, I also loved how we got to learn more about the villain. At first, he didn't share his name with her, but then we find out his name and it's oh my god, that's your name, ha ha ha. I mean, but also too, we get to learn more about his family. We also get to learn about her family too. She got some kind of traumatic childhood, which also leads to kind of the ending of the story, which I'm not gonna spoil. But the ending, I was not expecting it, and oh my god, the way the author did this ending of this book, I was not expecting it though. Like, you're gonna be shocked. So yeah, like I ate this book up. I gobbled it up. So the third book I read The Longer Letter by Mariam Ba. I think that's how you say your name. I'm like so bad at pronouncing names. And I gave this book a 3-star rating. So this was one of the books that I had to read for my non-European literature class. When I first started reading the book, I was like, I don't know, like I'm not like vibing with it too much. Like, I didn't really like the writing style because like each chapter was kind of like a letter. So the narrator was like talking to like her best friend and just kind of like telling her about like her life, her children, family, her husband, and like the culture. I forget what country. My teacher is gonna be mad. He could be like, "How could you forget? We spent so much time on it." So like we learned about like the African culture, and I thought that was like very unique. Like I really do enjoy this class because like we get to see more like African cultures and African literature, and we never really get to learn that in British literature or like American literature. So like it's a nice change, and it's definitely like having to embrace like stuff that we typically don't see like in our daily culture. So yeah, so like I just loved the culture aspect of it. So like the book to me felt like it was more like character driven rather than plot driven, and I'm more of a plot driven person along with like characters, but more plot. So that's what kind of turned me off with this for a little bit. But it was really interesting to learn about like her family too, and how she kind of like dealt with that, like her husband married like a second wife even though she didn't want to be a co-wife. And it was also interesting like how like she was more traditional and her children were more like liberal, and seeing like the change in the country. So that was very interesting as well. I really highly do recommend this book. So the fourth book I read is The Frugal Wizard's Handbook for Surviving Medieval England, for title, by Brandon Sanderson. I gave this book a 2.5. I was totally not expecting to be given Brandon Sanderson a 2.5, considering that one of my favorite like series like ever was written by him. So I was like, oh man, like I don't want to give Sanderson like anything less than a 3, but like I had to settle for 2.5. So I'll tell you why. This book was like time traveling, and like you get to like buy your own dimension and all that stuff, which I thought was like really interesting. Like, I mean, that's actually really cool. Like, you get to buy a dimension and live in whatever time period you wanted to. But the thing was, it's not exactly similar to like reality, I guess, if you want to call it that. So like the stuff that we saw in medieval England was like different than what we would learn typically from a history book. But I didn't have a problem with that because like I knew like, you know, like you don't want to get like 100% accurate, like, you know what I mean? Like I like a little like fantasy, like throw it in there. But what I didn't like was the main character, he woke up like in this new dimension. He didn't know who he was. He didn't know like anything. Like he lost his memory. He had just gone. So I expected more of that, but like throughout the book it was just like he knew what things were. Like this probably wasn't in the book, but he knew like, but he would know like what a fork was, or like what a gun was, or like what clothes were, like, you know, stuff like that. Like that you would think if you're like on a clean blank slate of mind. Like I think of a baby, like baby, they don't know nothing. They come out of like a nice warm womb and like they're crying their head off because they're like, oh, you know what I mean? So like, you would think like he knows absolutely nothing, but like he knows some stuff. Like he knows the names of stuff, but like he doesn't know himself, which I thought was like really weird. It was, I don't know, I feel like that could have been a lot better. And the world building too, like there was just some stuff that did not make sense. Like the gun parts, they were actually like shooting guns, and like the evil guy wanted to take over the dimension, or I don't know, like that whole part was like so confusing to me. Like the whole like last 25% of the book, I was just like, what am I reading? That's why I gave it a 2.5 star. And I'm like really disappointed that I did anything lower than a 3 star for Sanderson. The fifth book that I read was My Roommate is a Vampire by Jenna Levine, and I gave that a 3.5 star rating. This book would have been a 4 star rating I'm saying if there were not so many unanswered questions from this book. Like, there was just so much stuff like left unanswered that I felt like it should have been in this book regardless if we were getting a book 2 or not. Like, with the main character's best friend, he was so concerned about her moving in with this weirdo creepo guy. Like, the ending like kind of stick to like a year later, so it's like we never got the answer if like did the best friend know about the roommate being a vampire, or like what his thoughts were on like why this guy was so weird in modern times. But it was like, it's typically like a rom-com, so I wasn't really expecting those answers, but it still would have been nice to kind of like tie like the plot together, if that makes sense. Like kind of like have an ending for them. But what I did love, honestly, like we get to see like the main character like kind of evolve, like get like her dream job in the end. She got the dream boyfriend, I guess, if she going for vampires. And we also got to see like some like really interesting characters that were like really funny and like that I adored. Like I loved the vampire's like best friend, even though he was kind of like a jerk. Like he was like a fun, lovable jerk, not like just a jerk, just like a lovable jerk. I love those characters. And it was also interesting too, like because the vampire, he was getting used to like the modern world, so he had no idea what like a phone was. He had no idea what Instagram was, and he was learning what Instagram was, which I thought it was so funny. I loved that scene. So the last book I read was Arrow of God I gave it a 4-star rating. So this one too I also read for my literature class, and this was also like another African literature. And this was taking place when the British Columbia was like in Nigeria colonizing them. This book was like really upsetting to me at the end, because I was like, no, they killed off my favorite character. But like it was so interesting to also see like the Nigerian culture kind of like adjusting to like the British Columbia being there. It was interesting to see like how like the main character, he was like a chief priest. Yeah, he was a chief priest, so that meant that he was kind of like a messenger from like the one god that was like protecting the village, and he would relay that message to like the villagers. And he also used like the ritual of like the new moon, so like every time there was a new moon, he would announce it, and he would eat like a yam that one of his wives, he had 3 wives by the way, and he would have one of them cook it up and he would eat it, and that would symbolize like a new month. So like every 28 days would be like a new month, like like the moon cycle, which I thought was really cool because like, I love the moon, I connect with the moon, I vibe with it. And I realized I'm forgetting to wear my microphone, and I've been filming it for 18 minutes. Whoops. So that was really interesting, and I also really love like all the characters. Like it was a little confusing in the beginning, like I had to physically like write out like all the characters' names and like who was the mother and who was like they related to, like if they were half sibling, full sibling, step sibling, you know what I mean? So like that gets a little confusing after a while because there's so many characters, but I feel like if you map it out like I did, you can get a clear understanding of like the characters. So yeah, I really recommend this book more than like that other book, the longer letter book. So if you really want to learn about more African cultures, I suggest this book heavily. So that was all I read for September. I'm like I said, I'm like really surprised that I read that much. So I'm glad. So I'm happy with it. Although I wanted to read maybe like 1 or 2 more, but like you know what, that's okay. I'll take the step. For October, I am planning to only give myself 5 books to read, and these are none of the books that are going to be listed in my class. If I remember correctly from the syllabus, I'm going to have to read like 2 novels this month, so technically it will be 7 books to read, but we'll see how many of these I actually get done, because Octobers are usually a busy month for me. The one book I want to read is The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde. I actually already started reading this book. I started it like at the very end of September, maybe like the 27th to the 28th, something like that. So like I'm gonna count it towards October because I'm gonna finish it this month. The second book I want to read is Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. I feel like I'm finally ready to dive into it, so I'm gonna dive into it this month. And then another book I want to read is Hooked by Emily McIntyre. So I've heard a lot of like mixed things about this, and I typically don't read dark romances, so I'm very curious to see how I'm gonna like this. And then another one I want to read is Ordinary Monsters by J.M. Morrow. So I actually got this book from the library last month. Look how thick it is. So hopefully I can get this through. How many pages are there? 658 pages. So we'll see how much I get into this month. This will probably be more like the last book that I'm gonna read of the month, so might bleed into November, but we'll see. And then another book I want to read is Together We Rock. I picked up that book back in August, so like I'm really excited to like finally have the time to like sit and read it. And I think I'm going to enjoy it. It sounds really good. So that's it for today's video. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. Comment down below your thoughts about the book that I reviewed, or if you want to tell me what books you plan to read this month of October, let me know. I would love to know. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel. Don't forget to ring that bell to be notified whenever I post a video. Until next Thursday, I'll see you then. Bye.